Hello and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf. So I promised you 2 videos at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, and this will be the second one. And this will basically just be 5 of my top tips if you want to read more books in 2023. So I think I will start by saying it's not a competition. We don't have to read more books. It doesn't make you a better reader if you're reading more books. It's definitely about quality and not quantity. But also I understand that some people just want to fit more reading into their life, and also the more books you read, then the more you'll be able to work out what you do like, and it's nice to be able to say that you've read a book that somebody else has read so you can chat with each other. So, you know, there's something to be said for reading a lot of books as well. But yeah, like I said, not a competition. Don't worry if you don't read a lot. So in 2022, I'm filming this at the end of the year, and I so far have read 120 books, and I might be able to squeeze in one more. So that's about 10 a month on average. However, it definitely wasn't 10 a month. There was a month, I think in May, where I read 18. And then I think my shortest or smallest month, I probably read 6. So yeah, it's a bit up and down. It definitely wasn't like 10 consistently. And I went on like a hot holiday where it's just like a beach holiday where all I did was read all week, and I read like 7 books in a week. So there are definitely moments like that where I do manage to squeeze in quite a lot. But then there'll be weeks where I barely read one because, you know, life gets in the way. So yeah, it's hard to be consistent. But anyway, here are 5 of my top tips that will hopefully get you to read more books in 2023 if that's what you want to do. So, tip number 1, which is probably a bit vague, but tip number 1, don't force yourself to read if you're not enjoying it. I think this is really important because I think people can often want to read and think, well, I'll sit down and do it. But reading is actually quite I don't want to say hard hobby, but it's not the same as watching the telly or doing something that doesn't really require you to switch your brain on. Reading definitely does. And because of that, sometimes you're not always in the mood to do it. You know, if I've got a headache, or if I'm feeling tired, or if I'm just want to be lazy and lay horizontally and do nothing, reading isn't always what I reach for. So if you aren't enjoying it and you keep picking up a book and thinking, I don't want to do this, just don't force yourself to do it. Do something else. Read, you know, watch a film, or I do a lot of crochet and knitting and craft, or just find something else to kind of keep yourself occupied. And then when you get the motivation to go back to reading, then do it. Because I think you can also get into a bit of a cycle where you keep forcing yourself to do it and then you don't enjoy it. So why would you want to do it again? So yeah, you can definitely end up getting there. So yeah, that will be my first tip. Don't force yourself to read. And then my second tip, which kind of ties in with that, DNF. This isn't for everyone, because I know there are people who specifically say, I don't DNF books as a rule, and that is absolutely fine. You do you live your life. I used to be that person. I don't DNF a lot. I think in 2022 I DNF'd 3 books, so not a huge amount. I do try and stick with them. However, there is no point in reading a book you're not enjoying. And again, I think it can just get yourself into that habit of, or sorry, not habit, but into that mindset of reading a book you're not enjoying and thinking, I'm not enjoying this, and then kind of associating that with reading in general rather than finding the books you actually want to read. And that's what's really important about like reading as a hobby, finding what you enjoy. And there's no right or wrong answer to that. If you want to solely read YA romance, you do that. If you want to only read dark academia, you do that. If you only want to read smutty fantasy, you do that. Like, there's no right or wrong, but find what you enjoy. That's what's really important, because there is no point in just looking at what's like the bestseller that month or what's going around on TikTok and then only buying books based on that, because you just don't always enjoy the same books as other people. And some people can be really specific about what they enjoy. I'm quite lucky in that I enjoy pretty much everything, with the exception of like horror. Don't like horror, and I'm not big on fantasy, but I do occasionally read fantasy books. It depends what they're about. But apart from that, I read pretty much everything, which helps because I can pick up almost anything, but not everyone's like that. Some people are very specific about what they read and only read a certain genre. And if that's you, that is fine, but work that out. Find that and then stick to that, and you will find yourself getting through a lot more books than if you were just randomly buying anything. But to go back to my tip 2, yeah, if you're not enjoying something, just put it down, walk away. And you know, you can soft DNF something, you can come back to it in 6 months and try again. Absolutely fine if that's what you want to do. But you will, again, find yourself getting through things a lot faster if you give up with them once you've lost interest, because not all books are for everyone. No one's going to enjoy every single book, and no book is going to be enjoyed by every single person. So yeah, don't worry if you yeah, want to DNF, want to walk away from it, that's fine. Okay, so my tip 3 would be audiobooks. Now this is definitely one I take massive advantage of, especially as someone who has quite a busy life. I have a 9 to 5. I also do all my social media. I also have I'm in a relationship. I've also obviously got a social life. I want to see my family, etc, etc. So it's hard to sometimes find the time to physically sit down with a book. Audiobooks are great because they allow you to be doing other things. So if I decide on a Sunday that I want to clean the house for 4 hours, pop on an audiobook and I'm reading at the same time. And actually I've found that some books I'm not really enjoying physically, but if I read the audiobook I can get through it, because I couldn't, for whatever reason, I couldn't do it physically, but if I'm listening to it, I'm much more engaged. And I think that sometimes that's down to the narrator. I am a big advocate for reading audiobooks that are narrated by their authors, because I think there's just something that makes you so much more connected to the book. So I love that, and I love when I've bought an audiobook or found an audiobook that is narrated by the author, and that makes me really excited to read it always. So yeah, but audiobooks are great, like I said, when you're cleaning, when you are in the car or on public transport. I get travel sick, so I can't read physical books on public transport, but I can listen to audiobooks. Just when you're kind of, you know, running errands, you're multitasking, you're wanting to do something else at the same time. Like I said, I do craft, I do a lot of knitting and crochet. If I'm working on a project like that or doing a puzzle, also listen to an audiobook. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you have to multitask. You can do these things on their own, but if you are wanting to fit in more books, audiobooks are so much more flexible because they do allow you to be doing other things and not having your eyes on the book itself. So yeah, audiobooks are great. There's also a great way to get free audiobooks as well if you are with your library. I'm not sure about other countries, but this I know is in the UK. If you have a library card, then you will be able to find the associated app that will go with your library. So for me, my local library is with Libby, and then you just enter your library card details and you can borrow audiobooks in the same way that you'd be able to borrow physical books. So for like 3 weeks you have to put them on hold. If somebody else has them out, you can renew them, blah blah blah, all the same way as a normal library, but you obviously just do it on an app and you can listen to audiobooks. I love doing that because, like I said, it's free, but also it's a great way to keep using your library even if you don't want to physically go get books, which is fantastic. And then I also use Audible occasionally, but I also use Scribd. Scribd is great because it's unlimited, unlike Audible, so you pay, I think it's £10.99 a month, which I realise is a lot, but you can listen to, you know, as many books as you can fit in, which is obviously great, unlike Audible where you only get a credit. And I know they have their unlimited library, but that is really restrictive. I barely ever find books on there that I want to read. So Scribd is great because there's a lot on there. It's not completely unlimited in terms of where, like, you won't have access to the entire library of books. I'm not sure on the numbers, but say there's 10,000 books in the library, you don't have access to all of the 10,000 every month, but I don't think it's restrictive enough that you'd notice. And generally if it's not available to you, you can like put it on hold or save it rather, and then the next month it normally becomes available. So it's pretty good. And it's also great because if you refer a friend, so get someone else to sign up, they get, I think, 2 months for free and you get 1 month for free. So, you know, if you've got some friends that want to use it, there's some great little tricks where you can get 3 months, which is obviously great when it costs £10.99. So yeah, they're 2 things I really love listening to audiobooks on, and would really recommend them, especially if you're looking for some free audiobooks, but just generally read more audiobooks because they're a great way to get up your reading goal for the year. My next tip is read short books. This may seem a bit like you're cheating, but it's absolutely not. If you just find yourself not really motivated, or you find that you just want to get like through things a bit faster and you just find long books a bit of a slog, find some short books. I have a video, I'll link it here, on short books, I think it's under 200 pages that I would recommend, and there are plenty of books under 100 pages which you can read in an afternoon, which is really great. So yeah, if you are looking to up your the speed at which you're reading, then short books are a really great place to go. And books don't have to be long either. I've read so many like 400, 500, 600 page books and think this could have been done in 250 pages and I would be equally as satisfied. So it's definitely not cheating, don't think of it like that. But yeah, it sounds obvious, but pick up a short book instead of a long one and you might find yourself more motivated because you're finishing things faster. And there's definitely a great sense of like closure, I think, when you turn the final page of a book and finish a book and feel completed with that book. I really like that feeling. So yeah, if you want to get that feeling more often, read a shorter book. And yeah, sounds obvious, but I think it's a great tip. And then my final tip to read more books in 2023 is reread books. So I'm not a big rereader, and I'm trying to do it more because I think there are two reasons why it's great. Firstly, I think when you reread something, you normally read it faster because you know what's happening, you understand the world, the characters, their relationships, so you don't have to sort of process that in the same way that you do when you're reading a book for the first time. So you normally get through them faster. But the second reason is when you reread a book you know you love, going back to kind of what I've been saying throughout this video, you will be more motivated to read because you know you love it. So you'll be reading, you'll be enjoying it, and again it's that association, I love reading, so you're kind of reaffirming to yourself how much you love reading, and there's no better way of doing that than rereading a book you know you love. So I'm going to try and do more. I think in 2022 I reread I think 3 books. But I'm going to try and do more. There are already books that I keep seeing on my shelf that I think I must reread that, especially when it's been like, 5, 6, 7 years since you've read something. I barely remember what happened. So yeah, I really, really want to do that. So I'm going to attempt to do that more in 2023. So yeah, there are my 5 tips for reading more. Like I said at the beginning, it's not a competition. Don't worry if you haven't read as many as somebody else. It doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to other people. But if you do want to up your reading goal and your list at the end of 2023, then these are my 5 tips. And I hope you find them useful. Let me know if you do, and let me know if you have any tips as well for reading more. For reading more books. I'd love to hear them, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and like I said in the previous video, I will try and do more videos in 2023, but I'm making no promises because editing videos is a very long process. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed your 2022, and I hope you're all excited about the books you're going to read in 2023. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!